good day, and welcome to session 4. So let's just recap quickly. So far, we've done self-identity, we've done building self-esteem, self-confidence, assertiveness, personal boundaries, and today we are going to start with healthy sexual behavior and good attitudes about sex. So this is a topic they can't really approach until they have some form of self-esteem and worth. They kind of know who they are, they have an idea of what they like, what they don't like, what behaviors are okay, what behaviors are not okay. So they kind of have that sense. You know, they might not know, but they have that sense now because of all the workshops leading up to this. Okay? So this is now taking it further, where we will be talking about sex itself and HIV itself, the boundaries along that, the attitudes along that, and the behavior to do with that. Okay? So we are going to, there's 6 activities in session 4. So it's quite a lot of activities. So we're gonna see how far we get today. Maybe only 2 or 3, because it's a lot of things per activity. And so we're gonna cover views on sex, which is compulsory. Then I don't like your attitude. It's not compulsory, but you can see, like I say, gauge the room, see if they need to have that also. Or if you have time, then also do it. But if you see you don't have time, or they don't really need it because they have an idea about attitudes, then it's not compulsory. Right time to have sex is compulsory. Pregnancy and our sexual bodies is compulsory. HIV, facts or fiction, is compulsory. HIV-related stigma and discrimination is compulsory, because this is very important, your attitude towards other people. And then, so this will help the participants to understand what sex is, and also to identify that there is a right time to have sex. You know, because as a child or a teenager, with peer pressure and everything, and you're confused about yourself, and you're still working on your self-esteem and where you're going in life and stuff like that. So you might not always have the emotional maturity to know when is the right time to have sex. You know, because maybe all your friends are doing it, or you feel pressured by the guy or the girl, or whatever the situation might be. So then you don't really know. But like I said, the previous building blocks will help you to identify and establish what you like, what you don't like, what you shouldn't give into, because we covered peer pressure also a little. So they kind of have a sense now of when is the right time, when isn't the right time. And so these are going to help solidify what those things are. Okay? So the purpose of this is to increase sexual knowledge and information about healthy sexuality, and explore different attitudes towards sex. Because sometimes, depending on what they've experienced in their life already, some of them were already abused. So they have a negative attitude towards sex. They think it's just bad, or you just have to have these terrible feelings, or it's only painful and hurtful, and you know, they might just have this negative connotation, because not everybody came out of a healthy home. So they don't understand healthy relationships. All they know is just bad and abuse and stuff like that. So this will help them to understand that sex can be a good thing. Relationships can be a good thing. So it's basically building their emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. We call it EQ. So you know, like your mind and your intelligence is IQ, intellectual, but EQ is emotional. So this is what we need to build. Because they won't be able to stand up to peer pressure, they won't be able to stand up to sexual advances if they don't have enough emotional maturity to say, or to know or to identify, no, this is wrong, that is right, that's okay, I can say no, those types of things. Because sometimes you don't know that you can say no, you know. Sometimes all you know is you have to just do what you're told, or just go with the flow even though you don't feel comfortable. You have to just do it, you know, because maybe an adult told you that you must, or something like that. But these are building blocks to help them understand that they have the power over themselves to put those boundaries in place. Okay, so again, before you start, you need to prep, as you know, so that you can be prepared when you step into the room. You have to read the room, you have to put on your other personality, because it's about them, and it's about helping them, and being the person that they need, because you might be the only positive influence in their life. So, be a good positive influence, you know, because happy children create happy community, and the ripple effect continues. So if you can start with one person, that person can help many others. So always try and be positive, kind, understanding, attentive. Make them feel that it's okay to feel scared or whatever, but try and make it a safe space. You know, and then also you need to obviously put down your rules, as you mentioned, because children have attitudes, and and stuff like that. So you need to help them understand that they must adhere to the rules, because otherwise it's not going to work well. They have to, if they want to be part of it, they must listen to the rules. Also so that you can have control of the situation. Because if there's no rules, everybody is doing whatever they want to, you can't control, you can't move on to the next activity, you can't do what you want to achieve. So it's important to lay the ground rules and make them understand that they have to try to adhere to it. Okay? And then obviously you need to document your things in your dossier, so that, because anything can happen. I mean, for example, she's not here. What if the two of you had to have a session today and she didn't pitch up? What are you going to do? Can you do her part of the work that she was supposed to do? Can you cover for it? Do you know how to step in? You know? And vice versa, if you were there, would she know how to step in? Because you have to be prepared for any eventuality. And that is why prep work is very important. So always try and do at least an hour before the session starts. Go over everything, make sure that you have everything, your tools, your methodologies, everything must be in place so that it can run smoothly. Because you also don't want them to think you don't know what you're doing. It's just chaotic. I remember the first time at university, the first time I ran it wasn't a lecture, it was a training session, a practical basically, with a whole lot of science students, and I had to explain this experiment to them, and then they had to do the experiment, and I was so flustered that all my preparation went out the window, and so I was all over the place, and then they were like, yo, this girl don't know what she's doing, how can she want to teach us? And I felt so bad because I was ready, I thought I knew, but I obviously didn't prepare enough, but I thought I did. And when I came there, my nerves just like, because it was my first time, my nerves just got the better of me, and so like I just felt overwhelmed. And their comments was just breaking me down, like, oh, she's hopeless, how can she be a lecturer, how can she want to, you know, anything like that. And I was like, oh my word. And then the assistant like helped me and saved me by just like, you know, kind of taking charge little and saying this and that until I could now say you need to now move on to the next scene and whatever. But the point is that the situation itself can unnerve you also, you know, so you need to mentally be prepared for that also. Because if they don't pitch up, if your assistant doesn't pitch up, lots of people can be overwhelmed. Like 2 weeks ago, I was a judge at the hackathon thing where they and I had to present their proposals and the things that they did, and we had to choose, like we had to mark them according to, you know. And this one girl, she, like the guy was taking photos and then she asked him to stop because it's distracting her. And then every time she would start and then stop and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then at the end of it, after like 10 minutes, she's like, I can't do this. And then she just walked away. And her whole group was like left in the lurch because she was supposed to start the intro into the whole thing and their marks were depending on it. But then luckily, they knew their part. So then they just stepped in. So even though she kind of messed up the whole beginning, they knew their parts and they could step in and they actually did really well. You know, so it was a quite impressive presentation that they did. But imagine what her attitude did to them. You know, they could have also just given up and like, it's over now because she walked away, so now the whole thing is, you know, down the drain. But they didn't. They decided to step up and do their part and make it work, and you know, and they did really well. So one person can throw you off, but you mustn't let it. You must try and be strong in yourself. Learn from these lessons, these self-esteem lessons, you know, and try and just mind over matter, and you need to do it for them because they need it more than anything. So that is why preparation is really important. You really have to prepare. You might think it means nothing, but I mean, you saw for yourself now when you just started, if you didn't prepare, then how would it have gone? Exactly, it was really hard. Exactly, and they're chatty and they have attitudes and their words can break you. Like those children's words broke me and really made me like, yo, what am I doing? I don't know anything, and what, you know. So even if you do know, if you are not prepared with the work and mentally, then you're not going to be of benefit to it. So it's two things that you need to prepare. You need to prepare your work and be ready for any eventuality should someone not pitch up or whatever. And then mentally you need to be prepared. Because also, what if a girl or somebody was just raped just before she came, or the week before, or they had domestic violence or something, you know? And then that takes over the whole lesson, and you have to attend to that while trying to attend to the others. And so anything can happen. And you really mentally also need to be prepared for anything that can happen. And you need to be strong. Strong. But it only makes you a better person. The more you can prepare, the more you can navigate situations and circumstances, the better for you. Okay? Right. So, do you want to write this down? Yes. Okay, so the time is 2 hours. This is a long one, and this is only the first session. So like I said, there's a lot that will need to be covered in session 4. So you'll have 2 30-minute sessions and 1 45-minute sessions. Like I said, you need to prepare at least an hour before the time. You have to read through everything in your guide. Not in your manual. Well, both. Guide. Yes, but the manual is now where you have to read the information sheet, and also you must read your facilitators' notes to understand how you need to run the class, what type of things you need to say, and so on. Yes, shaded, yeah. You must read the facilitator's notes because that helps you to prompt them to think and to do what you want to do and help them to understand and help you understand what you need to be looking for, what you need to get out of them, that type of thing. So you have to read your facilitator's notes also. So we're going to cover sheet 4, which is sexual health. 4B, teenage and unplanned pregnancy and contraception. 4C, which will be about HIV and HCT. 4D is HIV-related stigmas, and then you have to prepare your cards. You're going to have those cards, flashcards, for activity 2. So your tools that you will need is your flip chart, masking tape, paper, pens, tape, and your cards. Okay, and then the methodology is you'll have group discussions. You're going to have participant reflections, quite a few, because they have to think about their sexual attitude. And then you'll have a debriefing section and a short lecture, so you also have to then talk quite a bit. Okay. What I like to do. I don't need to work for you. think I'm just gonna write it into Jeez.
Is that what you were going to ask me?
No.
No, sorry.
Just one or two photos, please.
Okay.
If I can just make the thing.
Yes, go.
So yes, this is in your books, but it's always better to write it out while you are explaining or someone is explaining, because then it goes into your head better. Because when you then need to sit down and do it yourself, it's already there, you already know the process of what you need to do, and it's a lot easier than you're not just like, what must I do now? You know? So that's why I write everything out again, and I take out some stuff and I add little things.
Steps.
Yeah, so that it's better for you. So sorry that I'm rewrite, but it is. It's like with teachers, you know, they're just writing what's in the textbook already that you have. But it's so that
As net meer verstaanbaar.
exactly.
Ja, voor mij was het baie makkelijker om mijn notes te vat en te kijken. Dus ik meer.
Exactly, because when it's in your own handwriting, it goes in more, and when you were writing, it already was going in, and you remember what was being said. So when you read it, then everything comes back to your mind. So that's why it takes long, but it is a better method.
I'll wait here. There we go. Got it. Okay. Yes, it's on. Okay.
favor, man. Is it possible I need to pick up the bucket that I get off my car? You can pick it up at all.
Where?
Off the train, if possible.
No problem.
Thank you. Nee,
Shame.
als we voor samen daar bij jou. Dit is je hebt dan eens gepraat gister.
Met een beko
Ja,
het
ja.
is gesien. Sy moes nou nie val
Nee.
nie.
Sy het nie van, oh,
Sy het nie val nie. Ek wil vir sy vra of die datum vandag. Ons op 'n Woensdag of Vrydag. Ek was maar tot ek moet toe gesê. Hy is wat hoe ek moet dit vervang.
so wanneer, ek sien nou nie, is het woensdag, of wat is het woensdag?
Ja, soos ons aan dan iets in Woensdag gehad.
Ja,
Wat sê sy nou? Ons het tot November toe wat ek het maar gesê nog nie.
ja, dat is fijn. Maar mensen het gesê, hoeveel gaat het ons kost?
Ons het vanaf 500 betaal.
Ook niet, dan is het een ja.
Sy moet nou kopie maak van Tabisa se kliniek.
So,
Asseblief.
ja, nee,
Sê jy hy?
nee, ek het dit nie, ek moet eens, gee dit vir, wat sy naam, gee dit vir Erika, ja. Sê Erika, maar net een secret voor hem antwoord. En deze, ek weet op sy kant te doen, dat nie.
Maar sy en die ander meisie van die klaler goed is vir sy gestuur.
Ja, hulle het, ja.
En Kraaifontein net Zoekie het aan gegee.
So,
Sy Mapelo en hy Marikie.
Susanna, so daar is geen verskoning nie. Daar moet nie verskoning wees, ja, dat ek gekry.
Hulle het dit goed gekry en ek weet nie wat is
Nee,
gestoor.
maar hulle het nie goed gekry.
Hulle het hulle seats gekry is. Hulle work seats. Sy moet maar net weet hy kyk hoe my 'n ander metode te maak met die en hy report sheet van hulle het hom almal het hom trein gesukkel die verwag toe. Sy moet maar die kinders, children en alles
Waar is die, wat is die ander report nou?
Beefsinne is nou, sy kan nou sien, daar is alle families, sy sê, sy het so geskryf, alle families. Want ek sê vas om nou so gedoen, soos die ou ene.
Nee, daar is nog een report. Daar is nog een report saam met die ander forum, wat jy moet invul, die site weer.
Die opsomming,
Toe wie?
as ek sal die 3, ek het ook nie die opsomming gedoen nie. Ek het net die vorm gedoen en jou attendance. En as die opsomming gedoen is sy, wat is vorm praat sy nou van? Soos die in besamenta, kyk hoe besamenta sy verkeerd.
Nee, die staan wel nie kan help.
Watter vorm soek sy? Maar sy het ons met die een vorm gegee dan nie. Daai is die nuwe vorm. Daai is die nuwe vorm wat sy gesê het hierso want hierso is in 'n hombesit en wat is die ander ding opstel. Sy het die tyd toe ons daar gesit. Wat is verkeerd sy?
Nou nee, hoekom kan sy verstaan en die ander mense verstaan nie?
Sy het dit
Mense het sommer, die mense het sommer resources, alcohol.
nie resources wat ek wil duidelik kliniek, hospitaal, home affairs. Ek het vir hulle verduidelik.
Ja, is stil. Hoekom sal mense dan sit alcohol?
Toe sê ek,
werkloosheid, siek. Obviously verstaan, jy wil nie wat aangaan nie.
ek het vir Beth mooi verduidelik sy. Ek het haar gesê, dit is waar jy na die gegaan het met jou kliënt. Skool toe, as wat jy haar gevisit met die kliënt. Ek het eers haar weer gegaan.
Ja, ek dink, sekere mense wat ek op boodskap
Het sy, as die wat aan Beth gedoen het, want Erika het gesê, ek moet het ook so doen. Sy sê, nee, ek kan het nie soos Beth gesit my rapport nie, want ons het dit nog nooit so gedoen nie. Al die families op een blad nie. Want Beth sê, as dan families. Toe sê ek vir Beth, elke familie kry sy eie blad.
Maar dis nie vir my 'n probleem nie. Ek het nie 'n probleem daarmee nie. Ek het net 'n probleem met sy verstaan nie wat hier aangaan nie. Because obviously resources is verkeerd. Okay, resources
Ek weet nie wat is as tyd.
resources is nie IDC. ID is nie resources nie. That is home affairs. Hier is 'n time, by tyd het jy sommer werkloos nog.
Nou, hoekom het sy daar soos buite kan? Ja, sy het vir my gevra, sy wil haar ou vorms hê, sy. Ek het vir haar gesê, ons het vir haar gesê. Okay, Shane.
Okay, die tye gaan kantoor toe, die tye kom nie na my toe nie. Ons het die tye op kantoor.
Okay, let's do the next two.
Kan jy net weer? Ek gaan nou die report so teruggee, né? Kan jy net vir Beverly vra om dit oor te doen asseblief? Because daar verduidelik net weer vir haar oor die resources, né? Asseblief, maar een, sy moet die summary report doen.
Ek het eens nog een kykie. Hy skryf dat dit het doen eie. Ek ben nou weer, ek het dit kan dit as al. Okay. So gaan almal, ek gaan almal dan 'n summary gee. Like hulle by hulle next report kan sit. So gaan kopies maak van die summary, soos hy mos nog wil hê, dat dit by kan wees. As dit twee goeders wat ons moet afgemaak het. Okay.
En die tye, obviously, die tye reports gaan kantoor toe, kom na my toe.
Okay.
Okay, so activity 10, views on sex. So it's very important for them to understand this concept thoroughly because it involves physical, emotional and mental. Okay, so they need to be prepared on all those levels. So take your time with this, and there are a lot of different workshops that you need to do, activities, sorry, that you need to do. So rather do one thoroughly so that you see they do understand. Take your time. If you see that you're not going to do everything within the time that was given, then just do one or two, but make sure you do it thoroughly because they need to understand. You can't move on unless they have a firm grasp of what is going on. Okay. So views on sex. The aim is to understand what they think about sex. The time is 30 minutes. You can start with an icebreaker, which should be about 5 minutes, but you can choose anything as an icebreaker. Whatever, again, read the room, but prepare before the time. You know your children, you know what will work with them. So use an icebreaker that's appropriate for them and the environment. And then step 2 will be a quiz, which will be 10 minutes. So they have to do true or false, and it's called Let's Talk About Sex. So you read the statement and you ask each one of them if it's true or false. If it's true, they must give a thumbs up. If it's false, they must give a thumbs down. Okay? So these are what you need to read. Abstinence is a practical choice for me right now. So obviously you have to explain what abstinence means, which basically just means you don't have sex. You abstain, or stop, or don't have sex. Okay? Then they need to decide thumbs up yes or thumbs down no. Okay? No talking, just everybody must indicate with their thumbs and you must just monitor the situation. Next, I've thought about the next time I want to have sex carefully. You also need to explain to them that they need to think about these things thoroughly. You know, because if they haven't had sex before, it's a very important decision. Okay? Because if they are not mentally matured enough to be having sex, it's going to mess them up psychologically for the rest of their lives, or until they are like married or whatever, and bad relationship choices come from that, and because they're not emotionally and mentally ready to have sex, they don't understand the emotions that go with it, the repercussions that go with it. So yes, it's not just about maybe they won't fall pregnant, but it still leaves scars on you if you're not ready, because sex should be between, it should be an act of love, basically, okay? But these days, especially when they start young, it's not, it's just for pleasure, you know, because their hormones are raging and whatever. So they need to understand that it's more than just pleasure. There's a lot involved, there's a lot of meaning to sex. So when you go through your facilitator's notes and the manual, it also explains a lot of these things that you can tell them beforehand to help them understand, so that when you get to the actual activity, they have an idea of how important sex actually is, and that they need to think about it carefully. They mustn't just do it, firstly because they're being pressured, and secondly because everybody else is doing it, and thirdly because their hormones are wanting them to do it. They need to think about it. It's the same like if you want to, what career choice do you want, basically? You need to think about what is it that you want to do for the rest of your life. Do you want to be a dentist? Do you want to be a dancer? Do you want to what? You know, these are things they have to think about at that age also, because they have to do their subject choices and so forth. So there's a lot of thinking that they need to do. So just like they have to think about what they want to do as a career choice, lots of thought needs to go into it, how it will affect their lives, what they need to do to get there. It's the same with sex. It will affect the rest of their lives. What they need to do before they get there, what the repercussions are. Not just that sex might have worse repercussions because they could fall pregnant, they could get AIDS, they could get STIs. There's a lot of other factors, you know, and it could, if they are not emotionally and mentally prepared, it could really scar them. And they could end up hurting people, and then the cycle just continues in the community, generation after generation, and then teenage pregnant mothers start hating their children, and then the children grow up with these abandonment issues, and so it's like a whole ripple effect. It's not as simple as just having fun. You know, if you're older and more mature, and you can make those decisions and you do it properly and you go on something, for example, then you can do it for fun. But teenagers, there's a lot more thought that they need to involve when doing this stuff. So they need to think about having sex carefully. You must explain. They must think carefully about it. Okay? If a girl falls pregnant, sorry, then they obviously have to thumbs down or thumbs up. But you must explain it before they make the decision. If a girl falls pregnant, the baby's father should marry her. Do they agree or do they disagree? And then again, you also need to kind of explain. When you are so young, can you even get married? I mean, if they're having sex at 13, they're still children themselves. There is no way they can get married, or, you know, so you have to explain in context of their situation. So again, reading the room is important to understand where everybody's kind of at in their lives, so that you can explain things to make it relevant to them right now. Is it normal for our community to have lots of different sexual partners at the same time? And most probably they will say yes, because in most communities, most people unfortunately have multiple partners. So again, up or down. But you have to remind them they mustn't talk. They mustn't answer. It's just a silent motion activity. Okay? In our community, is it normal for family to put pressure on a girl to fall pregnant? As crazy as that sounds, some communities it is like that. Especially in the poor communities, because they feel when a girl is pregnant, she can get money for the child to support the whole family because nobody's working. I mean, just look at your SASSA grants. So many girls deliberately have babies so that they can get the SASSA grant to drink or go on drugs or whatever, you know? And they don't think about the child. Like my friend, my cousin, he was telling us the other day, he's a physiotherapist, and so he had to go to up country somewhere to now do his year of in-service training, community training, whatever they call it. And the children would come malnourished, man, like really, they're almost dying because they are so malnourished all the time. Then they come to hospital, then, you know, they get better, then they go home, and then they just come back a month later with the same issue because the mothers have so many children and they don't really care. They just buy chips, wind chips, yes, to you know, fill them up, and there's no nutritional value in that. And those children need proper food to grow, to develop properly. So with the result, they constantly are malnourished. They're having all sorts of diseases and health issues and all of that because the mothers, whether they care or not, I don't know, but they're not providing properly, whether it's maybe because they don't have money, because they have too many children, or because they want to enjoy their lives, so they just stop nagging me and here, just have some chips or whatever, you know. So that's the reality of how life is and the choices that they make, and then they just have more and more babies because they want that income. I mean, if you have 6 babies, that's like more than $2,000 a month, you know. And you can do, I mean, for poor people, they can do, it will help them a lot because it's money they didn't have. So it's a very important thing to understand that parents do actually put pressure on their young girls because they see them as cattle or chattel that they can barter and use for their own benefit. It's really sad, but it really does happen. So again, before they make the decision of true or false, whatever, you need to explain that these realities happen, but the dangers involved with it, and how bad it is, and what it will really mean. Because when you are busy having sex or whatever, all you think about is the pleasure and the fun and good times and whatever. You don't think about the repercussions. And if you fall pregnant at 12, your whole life is ruined. The baby's life is ruined. Your family is in a worse of position. So it really has a very negative ripple effect. I think it's okay for girls to have sex with older men who support them. So this happens a lot, as you know. They either call them sugar daddies or blessers. And they think it's just wonderful. They will just do whatever the man wants them to do because now they can have a lekker life. They can get Louis Vuittons. They can get money when they want. Or basically they're just using it so that they can survive. But actually, what is it? It's actually prostitution, if you think about it. Because they don't love the man. They're not in the relationship for the relationship. The man is just using them and is giving them money to support them or whatever, you know, because what is such an old man doing with such a young girl? There is no relationship there, it's just using. unfortunately, you have to make them understand the realities of what it really means. It's not a pleasure. It's actually ruining your life, making you become a prostitute in essence. That's what you're doing. You are becoming a prostitute. You think it's wonderful because of the glamorous things you can do and the benefits you can have, and maybe life is better, but that is why the previous building blocks were important, because they need to have self-esteem. They need to understand their self-worth so that they can see they shouldn't put themselves in such situations because they're better than that. They deserve more. Doing that is like thinking nothing of yourself and your family and whatever. Like you're just okay because you're going to get money. And it's not okay because you deserve a lot more, you know. So you need to explain all of that. And then, of course, if you want to bring God into it, if you are a child of God, you need to act like a child of God. You need to stand up for God's principles. You can't be opening your legs for money and living the wicked life and whatever. It's not right, you know? Okay. So, rape isn't really a big deal. Rape is rape. No is no. But these days, girls get so pressured and manipulated that even if they say no, it like doesn't matter. So then they start thinking it's okay. You know, yeah, I said no, but it is what it is. So then it becomes a norm and people start thinking that it's, even if they don't want it, it will just happen. It's out of their control, it is what it is, that is how life is. And so that's how they start living. And they don't have those boundaries that they need to have in place, where your body is yours, your body is something sacred and beautiful, and you need to protect it. You need to protect yourself. Because when you make these wild decisions, it affects you mentally and emotionally. You end up being an unhappy, depressed person because you might not think it at the time, but it does affect you on so many levels. You won't be able to have proper relationships. You won't be able to identify your true worth. You won't be able to see you are worth something more. You deserve something better. You need to go and get something better. Don't settle for this little bits that is just being thrown at you, or you feel you don't have a choice. Everything in life is a choice. You can say no. Yes, there are repercussions to our choices, whether we say yes or no. Sometimes if we say no, the repercussions are worse. But we have to protect ourselves from other people, from ourselves, from bad situations. So that's why it's important to help them to understand they need to think about things. They must think things through. No is no. Rape is not okay. Someone having sex with you, whether you wanted it or not, is not, or at least when you didn't want it, is not okay. Because lots of girls think, oh, it's just is what it is, it's okay. But it's not okay. And they need to understand, because the more they just go with it and brush it off or whatever, the more it makes the guys think it's okay to do it. And then they perpetuate that behavior. They keep on thinking, I'm a man, I can do what I want to. And they go and they do this to lots of other women, and this builds bad character traits in them. You know, maybe the first time they did it, they were so filled with, hormonal emotions and feelings, and they just weren't thinking at the time. But next time, try and do better. Everybody does make mistakes. But think about what you're doing, your actions have repercussions. They say a lot about who you are, your character, your worth as a person, as a guy. It's not nice to force someone to do something, because don't you want them to want to do it? Forcing someone to do it, it's not. What benefit is it to you? Yes, maybe you get what you want, but they didn't do it out of their own, with their own free will. They just did it because you forced them to do it. So forces, it doesn't give true, it doesn't show the true value of things. It gives a false sense of security and macho-ness and all of that. Because when you take something that wasn't given, is it even really yours? You know? So the guys also need to understand that this also affects their self-worth a lot. What they think about themselves, what is worth in life, what is not worth in life, you know? It's not like they mustn't be ruled by their physical needs and wants. They need to think about everything before they do it. So, thumbs up, thumbs down, but you have to explain these points to them. Okay? Then you need to ask, how easy is it for them to have an open discussion about sex in their circle of friends, their family, their community, and then they need to write the answers in their workbook. Okay? Because it's a very sensitive topic. As you can see, this activity was a quiet activity. They just said to yes or no, but it might offend people, and because like majority of the people, or at least the kids in the room, might think it's okay to have sex. It's okay for all these things to happen. You know, that's the way life is. They don't know any different. They don't know any better. Jess? They don't know any better, so they think it's okay to go along with all of these things. But some of them might actually feel it's not okay. You know, they might start understanding what you're trying to say when you explain, but then they might be scared of how the rest of the people will look at them and what they will say and so on. So then it is better if they just write it in the notebooks, because then it's their personal feelings and thoughts, and they can put what is true for them down. So they need to think about this and then write it in their workbooks. Okay, so step 3 is going to be 15 minutes. It's about sexual health. And this will be a group work and then a discussion. So why talk about sex? So you will need your workbook and sheets of paper. So in the intro, so again, because of the topic, there's a lot of things you have to explain beforehand. Okay, there's a lot of points you have to go through. That's why there's a lot of writing now, because you have to write all these things down before you explain it. Make it part of your prep work, so you're not writing it in the time you need to be having these workshops like now. But because we don't have time to write it before. But these things you need to write down and then speak about it so that they can see and understand what it is you're trying to say, what they need to understand for the activity to happen. Because there's a lot of thought processes that need to go in before they do the actual activity. Okay, so you need to explain that you are not here to preach or to tell them what to do. Because again, you need to make them feel comfortable and not feel judged. You know, you remember those rules in the beginning, not to judging anybody, blah, blah, blah. So you need to make them understand whatever they feel is their feelings. You're not going to judge them or whatever, whether it's right or wrong. That is how they feel. So they need to feel open enough to express how they feel. Because if they feel, oh, you're going to judge them, then they're not going to want to truthfully express. So then you need to say you are not here to judge anyone or to tell them that if they have been abused in a relationship, that they are a bad person. So a lot of this happens in communities. They think that if they were in a situation where they were abused and they go and tell their parents or mother or they tell somebody, because of how crazy and messed up situation and family dynamics are, you was abused. If you were maybe raped by your uncle, you never tell your mommy. If that comes out, say your uncle is the breadwinner in the house. If that comes out, it's going to cause so many problems because now the uncle might not want to give food or whatever anymore. And so the mother doesn't want to rock the boat because now how are they going to survive, where they're going to get food from. So even though what he did was wrong, she might tell you not to say anything because he's the provider, you know, or whatever. Or he might become abusive, you know. So sometimes being a victim has terrible repercussions, you know, if you talk about it as the victim. So sometimes children have these things on their minds, and it makes them also feel reticent in not wanting to share, not wanting to open up because of the repercussions that could happen as well. So you need to make them understand that you're not going to judge them. They're not bad people, whatever their choice and decision might be. Because you don't know what their situation is. Even though we know telling the truth is important, but situational ethics might really cause serious problems. You know, so it's a fine line. You want them to think about the risks involved in sex so they can be aware and make effective choices for themselves. So like I said before, there's a lot of risks involved in sex, especially as a teenager, because they don't know their bodies, they don't understand the repercussions. Pregnancy is a thing that could really happen. Maybe the girl only got her period like 2 months ago, so she's hardly even a woman, and now suddenly she's pregnant, and then her whole life is ruined, the boy is ruined, they stand in 6th grade, 8, you know, they just started high school, and now life is over, before it's even begun. Another mouth to feed for the family. Pressures on the parents. The father might blame the mother for not having educated the child, you know. It's like a lot of things that can ripple effect. It's not only the pleasure at the moment. Whoever they have sex with could have HIV. They could contract it. They could, I mean, literally, that's a death sentence if you think about it. Technically, even though there's positive things, they can have a good quality life, but they now have a disease. And they need to now live their life in a different way because of this virus that they have. So explaining the risks is extremely important because they need to see that it's not just pleasure. They can't just have sex. There's serious repercussions. They have to think carefully. So many things can happen because of that one bad choice. So do they want to do it or not? And they need to think about these things before they do the deed. Okay, so you need to ask them what they think sexual health is. And once you've taken some suggestions, then you explain. Sexual health involves your body and your emotions. It relates to how you feel about sex as well as how you feel about your own sexual orientation. So, once again, sexual health starts in the mind. Because your mind...
As je mind ligt, dan gaan je goede keuzes maken. Als je mind is, zoals je gaat emotie was nog samenstemmen.
Exactly. So, and if they are not healthy in their mind, doing something like this might cause more harm because of the repercussions. Because maybe the girl feels, okay, I'm gonna have sex with him because he says he loves me. And then he moves on to Candace tomorrow. You know, then she will be so emotionally scarred, traumatized, maybe even for life. So they need to understand that there's a lot of risks, but you have to understand the healthy aspect, you know, what sexual health actually is, what it means, and then also the HIV component of it, the physical health side of it, the STD side of it, you know. You could get gonorrhea, you could get syphilis, you could get all these things, and some of those things can actually make you infertile. I mean, you can never have a child, and maybe you always wanted one. So some of the things can give you serious health problems, you know. So it really is a lot involved that they need to understand. So you need to ask them the question and see what is their understanding so that you can then guide the discussion on what sexual health actually is. And then sexual orientation. So now what if you have gay students, right? There's a morphe or there's a girl that feels she likes girls or something like that. Now it's a whole other story for them because now, like, where do they fit in? So it's a very tricky thing because now it's not only sex on its own that they need to now think about or whatever, and all these risks and all these factors, but now it's also like, who am I? What do I want? Who am I attracted to? You know, so especially gays, they get AIDS a lot. You know, I mean, it spreads mainly through them. So if that is their orientation, they need to understand there are more risks involved in that, you know. It's a very promiscuous and risky life that they are deciding to go on. If girls like girls and now they are, like we discussed in the previous one, where sometimes in some communities they feel they need to rape the girl until she comes right, you know, but that's also violation of her rights, of her dignity, of everything. It could also lead to scarring. It will lead to scarring, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. So they need to also understand what is their orientation, where are they sexually, do they like girls, do they like boys, do they like the opposite sex, do they like same sex, before they can even decide do they want sex, you know. So it's there's a lot involved. So take your time with this topic, because this topic determines everything else. Because the whole aim of this project is to go into the community and make them become little community facilitators to help other young people in the community that are facing issues of sex and HIV and peer pressure and all these things, because that is the ultimate goal. So they need to understand these things and be able to then make proper choices before they can even help other people. Because these things are very real. The way the community sees things and the perception that communities have is real. And these children have to deal with it every day. Whether it's true or not, they still have to deal with it. So are they mature enough to deal with it? Is their mental capacity strong enough to understand right from wrong, myth from fact, truth from error? You know, so it's a lot of things. Oh. Okay, so a person who is sexually healthy has a body that no STIs or HIV and has a good attitude about sex. So remember, we are busy yes or knowing. You need to explain these things to them. He or she can control his or her sexual feelings and understand the value of intimate physical relationships. This is kind of where you want them to get to. You want them to be able to control themselves mentally and sexually, and to understand what the feelings are that they are having, what it means, and then understand, this is most important, the value of an intimate relationship. Intimate in terms of emotional, which then makes the physical even better. So they need to understand that, because healthy relationships is what makes healthy communities. And so this is what they need to aim for. But if they have made bad choices from the start, and they believe all these crazy things, and they don't understand their self-worth and their self-value, they won't understand what it means to value an intimate relationship. Because all they want is just to be wanted, or they just want money, or they just want physical pleasure, or whatever. And sex is more than that. It's about that intimate relationship. It's about the value. It's more of an emotional connection than physical. That's what it should be, more of an emotional than a physical. But all most people know is just physical. So they need to understand that this is the end goal. A healthy sexual relationship involves protection against HIV and STIs or unplanned pregnancies. It's free of violence or coercion and pain, and doesn't make anyone feel embarrassed, abused, or angry. So this explains like everything basically, because healthy sexual relationship is mental, it's about emotional, but it also has all these factors in. So there shouldn't be abuse. There shouldn't be feelings of anger. There shouldn't be feelings of embarrassment. There shouldn't be coercion. There shouldn't be force. There shouldn't be pain. There mustn't be violence. And they need to protect against HIV, STIs, and pregnancy. So again, it's physical health, mental, and emotional health as well. So this is also very important that they need to understand. It's not okay to hit somebody. It's not okay to verbally abuse somebody. It's not okay to force somebody to do what you want them to do. They need to understand this, and it starts with self-worth, self-esteem, all those building blocks before. So that's why they need to understand that before they can even understand any of this. Then you need to explain to them that sexuality is made up of emotional, physical, intellectual, and spiritual, and social. So it's a whole lot of things that they need to think about. You know, these are the risks, these are the repercussions, these are the aspects that need to be considered when they make that one choice. So sex is not just sex. Putting it in is not just sex. That's all of these things. Are you going to be okay mentally? Are you going to be okay spiritually? Because if we really want to be honest, and we go according to what the Bible says, sex before marriage is an abomination. So technically this whole thing shouldn't even be happening with anybody if we follow God's principles. But that's how life is. That is how life has evolved, and that is where we find ourselves. So now we need to protect ourselves in every sphere, because if you think about it, that's the main reason why God said don't do it, because so that you can have a healthy relationship. Because if you do these things before the time, emotionally, mentally, physically, won't be ready, all these things can happen that will cause problems in life. Like my friend tells me, you cause your own pain because of what you think. or what you allow to happen to you. Whereas if you don't allow bad words, negative thoughts, negative situations to affect you, then you won't be depressed and you won't be down and you won't be in this terrible mental state because you didn't allow it. So the same with these sexual things. If they don't allow it, they won't have to deal with risks. They won't have to deal with effects, negative effects. They won't have to deal with repercussions because they made the right choices from the start. Sexuality is more than just having sex. I think it's very obvious now. It's a lot more involved. So you need to ask them, what would happen if one of the partners dominates and the other was given less attention? So this is also now what they need to think about. If one dominates in the relationship, how does it make the other one feel? Then you start having feelings of insecurity and low self-esteem and low self-worth because this person is dominating and you just want to make them happy and do whatever, but at what cost? At your mental cost, at your emotional cost, maybe even physically, because they could be hitting you, that could be dominating also. So it touches lots of avenues. Ask each participant to think about the risks involved with having sex and to write it down in the notebook. So now you covered all those things. So now they have an idea of how very important that one decision is. How the risks and the repercussions can affect them so tremendously. And not just physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The repercussions are endless. The ripple effect is to the generation that they're starting with the unplanned pregnancy, to the community, because now everybody's going to suckle because nobody planned for a child and that's another mouth to feed. So it's like all these things that just become problem on top of problem on top of problem. But had you actually had all this knowledge, thought about it and made healthy decisions, you could have avoided all of that. So knowledge is power. So what are you going to do with that power? And if you know something, that's one thing. But once you know, what do you do? So I think there's a quote by Maya, something to the effect of, if you know better, then do better. Because you can only do and work and be a person, a good person according to what you know. But if you know better, then you must strive and achieve to do better. Because what's the point you know better, but you're still deciding to live this low life, terrible situation, when you know that you can be more. There is better, there is more, there's more you can achieve, more you can attain, you know? So, yeah, then they need to work, write in their notebooks because they need to be thinking about this. So, I'm just going to...
Battery is gonna die.
Okay, so you need to ask them to write down in their note on a sheet of paper now. Sex is good if or when da 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 da. So now with all this information, they need to now write their own problem statement and answer, basically. When is sex good? When I've made proper decisions, when I've covered all my bases, when I use protection. For them, what do they feel? Will it be okay or good to have sex? Because as much as you want to tell them, don't do it. They're young, they're gonna do it. That's probably inevitable. Maybe the one out of all of them will be wise enough to wait until they're more mature. But let's be honest, majority of them will do it. So now they need to understand that if they're going to do it at least properly, be wise about your decisions. Use a condom. Go on birth control. Say no, you know, or whatever the case may be. But they must now try and make educated decisions. So individually ask them to think about the ideal conditions of being in a committed relationship where there is trust and respect, when there is appropriate long-term intimacy and love. So this is what sex should be about. This is what a proper relationship should be about. It should be about respect, trust, long-term intimacy, love. That is what should be surrounded in your bubble when you actually have sex. That is a healthy relationship. So now that they know, they need to think about, for them, what do they feel are ideal conditions? Okay? They must think about it along these lines. And then you tell them not to write their names, because they need to be anonymous, so that they can also feel a sense of security and not vulnerability, because once you put your name or you voice your opinion, automatically you become vulnerable to other people's judgments and thoughts and remarks, and you know, and you don't, and they tender, so you don't want to put them in any uncomfortable situations also. So they need to write this down on a piece of paper, no names, and then you need to put it up on a wall or something where they can all see what each person has said. You might not know who said that, but what is the general train of thought happening? Are they learning? Maybe if I read your paper, that makes me learn something. Or maybe if we read everybody's, we learn more. So that is the concept of what it is that you want to do with this activity. And then you need to invite everyone to investigate what their peers wrote. So then you're kind of going to have like a semi-discussion, because once they read what everybody else is saying, they need to sort of discuss it, investigate. Why is that person saying that? What does it mean that they said that? You know, that type of thing. So it opens up their mind as to how others also think about sexual health and sexual relations, and not just be stuck in their own head. And then you need to ask them to participate and complete the section on sexuality in their books after all of this, their work books. So I'm assuming there's going to be a paper or thing that they need to do.
Dit is nog altijd thumbs up en thumbs down.
Yes. But they need to now write what they think, what they feel in terms of this in their workbooks. Activity 11. And we're going to be finished. It's too intense, because it's already 10 to 12. This title is I Don't Like Your Attitude. So the aim is to reinforce positive attitudes about sex. Okay, so now that they understand the repercussions and what it really means, you can't stop them from having it. They're probably still going to have it, even though you kind of tell them it needs to be in a loving, committed, healthy relationship. They must also have positive attitudes about sex. Some people, because of abuse that they've been through, they only have negative attitudes and thoughts about sex. So this will be 30 minutes. And so before the session, you need to write a whole lot of stuff again on the flip chart and then go through it and explain. Because again, it's a lot of mental work. They need to understand the full extent of what is being discussed before you can actually do the activity. So, these things that you need to write down, you can't get HIV from having sex with an infected person only once. I am poor. I can't have lots of possessions, but I can have lots of women. So these are perceptions of people in the community. By the time she is pregnant, only then does she start thinking. Having multiple partners is just a fact of ikasi, which is a township word. It's what we all do. Do you know what ikasi means?
Is it township?
That's a township word.
Zo niks in daar. Als ik kijk naar zie ik dan weer via household.
I don't know. I was hoping that thingy would be able to explain to us what does ikasi mean. Anyway, okay, so sex is always most enjoyable between people who are both consenting. If my girlfriend takes the injection, she's safe for 5 years and I don't have to use a condom. I can always tell if someone has HIV. You can't eat the sweet that's wrapped in paper. I need many partners because one might drop me and then I need to have a spare. Most young people are not confident to discuss sex in their relationships. As a result, they are unprepared for when it happens. So again, that just explains they don't really know what it means. They don't know the repercussions, and then when it does happen, most times it's not a good experience. Most times the girl is either hurt, abandoned, pregnant, whatever the case may be, and then it just starts a whole cycle of that type of lifestyle. But now once you've gone through the previous stuff, they will start to understand they can make healthy choices and so forth. Having lots of girlfriends makes you enemies when the girls find out about each other. Young people must insist on knowing someone's HIV status before sleeping with them. Very important. The girls go crazy for you when you ikwara. So it's nice to have sex with lots of them. Newly initiatives to what? Is that like when they go into the bush and become a man? Probably. So, yeah. I've heard that before with guys that are now a man, everybody runs after them because they survived. Anyway, girls don't want to have the injection because it will make them fat. And the pill, lots of people believe this. Sometimes it's true, depends on your hormones. I like to be a player because of all the attention I get. I'm not so much into all the sex. I like to have lots of girls to show that I'm top dog and not isi umani, which means shoemaker, or someone who can only manage a girlfriend or one girlfriend. There aren't any support programs for you fathers because once you are a father, you are a man. If you have lots of girlfriends, you can't support your child because girlfriends are expensive. So these are all what people believe, like literally and majority of it is nonsense. And people live their lives according to these beliefs, and they make decisions according to these beliefs. When I have children, I will talk to them about relationships and sex, because nobody ever talked to me about it. This is important. You must try and make them understand that when they grow older, like they are experiencing now, to understand all these things and what sex actually means. It's very important because it will inform the rest of your life choices. So, step 1 of this activity will be 10 minutes. In this activity, they have to decide if they like or dislike a statement from the above list. So again, like before, it's like the thumbs up, the thumbs down, I like, I don't like, so forth. So read the statement as if they like it. So thumbs up if they like it, and thumbs down if they dislike it. So you will go through every statement, and each one must thumbs up or thumbs down for everything that you did before. That's why you have to write it down. Step 2. Now you're going to discuss all those things. That will be 20 minutes. Start with, I disagree with your attitude because blah 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 blah, or I agree with your attitude because blah 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 blah. And this is likely to involve lots of discussion, because now that they know differently, some of these points that we read before, maybe all of them believed majority of these points. Like, they believed about you must have lots of girlfriends, you must have a backup plan, you must be on the injection and then you don't need to wear a condom for 5 years. The pill injection makes you fat. All these things they believe, and so that informs their choices. But now they know differently because of the previous activity. Because we've now explained to them about mental maturity, about the effects of their choices, about thinking clearly about what you decide to do, the repercussions of what you do. So now that they know that, they can then see that a lot of these things are not true. So then this will inform the discussion. And then also, because they are now agreeing or disagreeing with these points, once you discuss it or they see what the other people say about it, it could spark more discussion. So because they know what you've covered before, this will now be a discussion, because what they believed previously is now not what is true. So the discussion is very important. But you need to make sure that they do it in a healthy format, which is this format. Because they need to learn to respect each other when speaking. And that will also be part of your rules. So the importance of all of this is understanding. That is the main focal point behind everything you are doing so far. To build them up, to build their self-esteem up, and to see their self-worth. So that they can now make proper decisions and be or want healthy relationships. And what does the healthy relationships mean? What does abusive relationships mean? Do they think so little of themselves that they want to settle for less? Or do they actually think a lot of themselves, or they see their self-worth and they value or deserve more? They deserve to be happy. They deserve to be in a committed relationship with only one partner, where the person is not domineering and loves them back, and it's a two-way thing. They deserve that. They need to see that they deserve that. They need to see that they mustn't be a part of the 10,000 girlfriends that the guy has. They need to see that they don't need to sleep with the guy for him to want them. So they need to understand all these things so that they can get to healthy relationships and see their worth in they deserve that. So take your time with these activities. There's 6 of them, and we've only covered 2. So it's very important because this really molds their characters and their decisions. You need to get through to them on this topic, okay? Because you don't want a lot of teenage pregnancies. You don't want a lot of high school dropouts. You don't want children to end their lives before it even started. You want to give them a healthy future. And so they need to think about their decisions that they make. You need to explain, help them understand how important those decisions are and why those decisions are so important, because they are important. Their feelings are important. And you need to make them see a choice is not just a choice. That involves spiritual, emotional, physical, mental. It's a holistic concept. It's not just have my body, let's just do this. It's how is that going to affect my mental state? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be depressed? Is it going to make me stronger, or is it going to break me down? How am I going to feel emotionally? Will I be able to have healthy relationships because of these bad choices that I'm making? Will I be a positive person, or will I start thinking that I'm only good just to sleep with, or I don't deserve anything more, or so if I fall pregnant, my life is ruined. I had a child and I'm so young, and I didn't even live, and so they need to understand. They need to make healthy choices. It's holistic. It's a whole lot of things involved. So take your time with this. Write down and explain each and every point. And even if they want to even talk about things while you are discussing it, if you are gauging the room and you see this is important, they need to, it's healthy because they need to understand, they're having important questions that they're asking about the statements you're making, then don't worry about getting to this with time. What's important is the understanding, because that's what you need to get through to them. You need to get the understanding of this concept. So yes, the activity is important to tick your box, to finish whatever, but very important is what they take home, the understanding and what they think and feel from this exercise. So yes, take your time and read the room and allow them to feel comfortable, to be able to say what they need to say. Because sometimes they had these questions already. Some of them didn't know that they could say no. Some of them didn't know that they can aspire to want better things. Because sometimes they think they are in this situation, this is our life, everybody's doing it, I have no other choice, I must just do it. But they don't have to, they can see that there is hope, there is something else. So, very important to think about. Any questions? Nothing that you would be able to do, because it's a very hectic